The chamber pulsed with the rhythmic thrum of the Althian Empire's central processor, a sound that usually soothed the nerves of the High Council. Tonight, however, it amplified the rising tide of fear that had gripped the room. Shadows danced across the obsidian walls, cast by the flickering aurora projectors that mimicked the celestial tapestry of their home world. The council members, their chitinous exoskeletons gleaming under the artificial light, shifted uneasily in their bioluminescent chairs. A hush fell over the assembled dignitaries as Grand Arbiter Xyler, his multifaceted eyes reflecting the turmoil within, raised a clawed hand, silencing the murmurs of apprehension that had been building for the past cycle. The air itself seemed to crackle with the unspoken question that hung over the chamber, heavy as a collapsing star: humanity. They had been observing the fledgling species for decades, a blink of an eye in the Althian lifespan, yet the species presented a paradox that threatened to unravel the very fabric of their carefully constructed reality. Xyler cleared his throat, the sound echoing in the cavernous space. The latest scans from the Kepler-90 system continue to baffle our computational matrix, he began, his voice a low, gravelly rumble. Their behavior defies all established axioms of galactic interaction. They demonstrate an almost reckless disregard for self-preservation, yet coupled with an unprecedented capacity for adaptation and innovation. The Arbiter paused, allowing the gravity of his words to settle upon the council. He gestured towards the holographic projection shimmering in the center of the chamber, a swirling representation of the cosmos. Their ships, as they call them, are crude. By our standards, they are barely capable of interstellar travel. Yet the energy readings they emit, the trajectory calculations, they are impossible. A singularity contained within a vessel that should be crumbling under its own weight. Counselor Zara, her mandibles clicking with agitation, interjected. We have dedicated some of the brightest minds of the Althian Empire to deciphering their technology. The project known as Omega has consumed cycles of research, countless calculations, and we are no closer to understanding their methods than we were at the beginning. They are quite simply incomprehensible. How can an organism so fragile wield such destructive potential? Her antennae twitched, a sign of her growing frustration. The Althians, a species known for their meticulous planning and adherence to logical principles, found themselves confronting an enigma they couldn't begin to solve. The holographic projection shifted, displaying a close-up of a human vessel, the Odyssey, as it was designated. Its angular, blocky design contrasted sharply with the sleek, organic forms of Althian spacecraft. It appeared almost primitive. Yet the data readings around the vessel were anything but. Energy signatures danced around the hull like fiery tendrils, defying the laws of physics. They represented a threat they could not measure. The core of the problem remains their mathematics, intoned Counselor Varkos, his voice a deep, resonant hum. Their equation, the one they use for faster-than-light travel, it is elegant, disturbingly so. Our own mathematicians, even after decades of relentless effort, have failed to grasp its underlying principles. They arrive at the correct answer, but they achieve it through a methodology that borders on the absurd. A low growl rippled through the council. The Althians prided themselves on their mastery of mathematics, on the elegant precision with which they charted the cosmos. Humanity's approach was a direct insult to their sensibilities. And their actions are equally illogical, added Counselor Alara, her voice laced with concern. They are sending exploratory probes into uncharted territories, engaging in trade with species far less advanced than themselves, and most perplexing of all, they are communicating their findings openly, without any apparent desire to conceal their capabilities. The room fell silent, the implications of this last observation resonating through the council. Such openness was antithetical to the Althian way of life, a species that guarded its knowledge as a precious resource, cloaked in layers of secrecy. Why, then, were the humans so transparent? What was their true goal? Xyler steepled his claws, his gaze sweeping across the assembled council. The longer we delay, the greater the risk, he said, his voice now laced with urgency. We have two options, to observe and hope to understand, or to preempt, but the implications of a preemptive strike are considerable. If they are as powerful as they appear to be, we risk igniting a conflict with a species we know almost nothing about, a conflict we may not be able to win. The room was a pressure cooker, filled with the collective anxiety of the Althians, their fee, or of the unknown threatening to consume them. The fate of the Empire, perhaps of the galaxy itself, seemed to hang in the balance. The holographic display flickered, showing the Odyssey continuing its trajectory. The unknown variables were beginning to create fractures in the reality they understood. Far away within the sterile, humming core of the Odyssey, Commander Eva Rostova surveyed the readings. The vast, starry canvas of the cosmos filled the viewport, each point of light a potential world, a potential encounter. The bridge crew, a mix of seasoned veterans and fresh recruits, moved with practiced efficiency, their faces illuminated by the cool glow of the consoles. The atmosphere was one of focused calm, a stark contrast to the Altheans' war room. Rostova's gaze drifted to the holographic display, which showed the familiar swirling representation of the faster-than-light equation that defined their propulsion system. This was the key that unlocked the secrets of the cosmos and the source of the Altheans' confusion. A single, elegant equation had been crafted by a team of human mathematicians to pierce the veil of space-time and allow them to traverse the galaxy. It was a marvel of human ingenuity, and yet it was a concept that the Altheans seemed to struggle with. "Report," she said, her voice clear and steady, breaking the quiet hum of the ship. "All systems nominal, Commander," replied Lieutenant Jackson, the young woman manning the tactical station. "We are still within the designated observation zone. The Altheans are still watching." There was a hint of a smile in her voice, a playful acknowledgement of the situation. They knew they were being observed, their every move scrutinized by a species they had yet to meet. "Maintain course and continue data collection," Rostova ordered, her eyes never leaving the display. "I want to know everything about them, their capabilities, their culture, their intentions." This was the core of their mission: exploration, understanding, and if possible, peaceful contact, the prime directive of the United Earth Federation. The mission was simple, but the equation itself was anything but. Rostova thought back to the frantic days before launch when the equation was initially revealed. It was a mathematical marvel that promised to change everything, and the implications of its power weighed heavily on them all. Humanity was ready to encounter the universe, but was the universe ready for them? In a small, windowless compartment off the bridge, Dr. Aris Thorne, the chief scientist, hunched over his own console, his brow furrowed in concentration. He was a man of quiet determination who had spent most of his adult life studying the Altheans, compiling every shred of data they could acquire, waiting for the moment they might be able to share their perspective. His goal was to understand their culture, their mathematics, and their fears. Thorne ran through another simulation, the holographic projection flickering with complex equations. The Altheans' attempts to decipher their FTL equation had been a source of both amusement and concern. They approached the problem with a rigidity that hindered their progress, their mathematical frameworks too inflexible to accommodate the elegant simplicity of the human solution. The human approach to the problem was based on the concepts of observation and experimentation, while the Altheans had created a complex system of rules and regulations that prevented them from seeing the simple truth. "Run diagnostic on the core," he muttered to himself, reviewing the calculations again. The equation was not just a means of propulsion, it was a window into the fundamental nature of the universe. It was a tool that could be used for exploration, for communication, and, if necessary, for defense. But it was also a responsibility, a power that demanded careful consideration. He noticed a new data stream from an unknown source. The signals, carefully concealed and encrypted, had evaded even the most sophisticated scanners. It was a message, hidden within the patterns of their communications, a call for a meeting, a signal that changed everything. Back in the Althean war room, the tension intensified. The projected image of the Odyssey held steady, emitting data that they still couldn't decipher. The Althean mathematicians had pored over the data for cycles, attempting to unravel the complexity of the human equation. Their efforts only yielded confusion. The concept defied the laws of the universe, and the humans' approach seemed almost comical. Zyler turned to Counselor Zara. "The mathematics team reports no progress. Their structures are rigid, inflexible. They lack the capacity to think outside the parameters of their established axioms." His antennae twitched, a sign of his growing frustration. The Altheans, with their history of mathematical prowess, were being outmaneuvered by a species that seemed to operate outside of their laws. "Perhaps we are approaching this from the wrong angle," Counselor Alara suggested, her voice soft but filled with a hint of steel. "Instead of focusing on their methods, perhaps we should examine their motives. What do they want?" She paused, allowing her words to sink in. "We have observed them for decades. We have seen their interactions with other species, their exploration of uncharted territories, their open exchange of information. They do not appear to be driven by conquest or domination." "Then what is their goal?" Varkos demanded, his voice echoing in the chamber. If they are not seeking to conquer, then what are they doing? The question hung in the air, unanswered. The Althians were a species built on logic and reason. They found themselves confronting a species that didn't fit into their worldview. The holographic display shimmered as a new data stream was intercepted. It was a transmission from the Odyssey, a signal directed to the High Council. The bridge of the Odyssey displayed the incoming transmission, showing a human, their face a picture of calm, in stark contrast to the tense anticipation of the Althian Council. The human, a woman with warm brown eyes and a friendly demeanor, began to speak. Her voice was clear and precise, her words carefully chosen. Greetings, representatives of the Althian Empire. We are the United Earth Federation. We come in peace. The air in the chamber seemed to shift. Xyler, after a moment of stunned silence, gestured for the translator to activate. The room filled with the smooth, resonant tones of the Althian language, interpreting the human's words. The council members shifted in their seats, their internal anxieties colliding with curiosity. The human continued, her expression unwavering. We have been observing your civilization for some time. We have noted your curiosity regarding our methods of interstellar travel. We would be pleased to share our findings. The boldness of the statement was almost breathtaking. To offer such a thing so readily, it was contrary to everything they understood. We understand your reluctance, the human said, as if reading their thoughts. Your caution, but we believe that knowledge is meant to be shared. That cooperation is a more effective strategy than competition. We are not here to threaten you or to conquer you. We are here to learn, to explore, and to understand. The room was silent, save for the hum of the central processor and the hushed breaths of the council. The humans, the incomprehensible humans, were offering them knowledge, cooperation. It was a challenge to their deepest instincts, to their carefully constructed reality. Xyler, after a moment of deliberation, responded, We accept your offer, but we will proceed with caution. We require verification of your claims, a demonstration of your good intentions. He paused. Initiate the diplomatic protocols, prepare to receive their emissary. He looked back to the holographic display. They would meet the humans. They would see for themselves. It was the only option. In the heart of the Odyssey, the atmosphere was one of quiet anticipation. The crew prepped for the arrival of the Althian delegation. Dr. Thorne, after confirming the authenticity of the message, walked into the briefing room to provide a final overview. He was a man of logic, but even he felt a flicker of excitement. We are about to undertake one of the most important missions in human history, he said, his voice calm and steady. The Althians are a powerful and advanced civilization. They have been observing us for some time, and their initial assessment of our capabilities has been complicated. He allowed a small smile to play across his lips. They underestimate us. That will be our greatest advantage. He paused, letting his words sink in. Our goal is simple, to establish peaceful contact, to demonstrate our good intentions, and to share our knowledge. But we must be careful. They are a species unlike any we have encountered before. They are cautious, secretive, and deeply invested in the pursuit of knowledge. Our primary weapon will be our understanding of their culture, their mathematics, and their fears, Rostova added, her gaze sweeping across the room. We have studied their society, analyzed their communications, and prepared for every possible contingency. We will be respectful, open, and honest, but we will not be afraid to demonstrate our capabilities. She turned to Jackson. Prepare the observation deck. Ensure the image is crisp. We want them to see what we have built, what we are capable of. Let them understand what we represent. Let them see what we can do. As the preparations continued, Rostova, Thorne, and Jackson walked into the observation deck as the vessel prepared to meet the delegation. The view was extraordinary. Beyond the viewport, the vastness of space shimmered, the myriad of stars a breathtaking display of cosmic beauty. Moments later, the Althian vessel, a sleek, organic-looking craft, docked alongside the Odyssey. The ramp lowered and the Althian delegation emerged, led by Grand Arbiter Xyler. They moved with a slow, deliberate grace, their multifaceted eyes scanning the surroundings. They were wary, cautious, but also filled with curiosity. The meeting began with a formal exchange of greetings. Rostova and Xyler, the representatives of their respective civilizations, met face to face. The tension in the room was palpable, a mixture of uncertainty and hope. Welcome, Rostova said, her voice warm and welcoming. We are honored to have you aboard the Odyssey. Xyler inclined his head, his multifaceted eyes studying Rostova. "We have observed your capabilities, Commander. Your innovation is remarkable. We are here to learn, to understand, and to, hopefully, build a lasting relationship." "We are honored to share with you," Rostova replied. "We understand that our methods are unconventional, but we believe that the pursuit of knowledge should be collaborative. Let us begin." Over the next few days, the Althian delegation was given a guided tour of the Odyssey. They were shown the ship's advanced technologies, from its energy systems to its life support systems. Rostova and Thorn explained the principles behind their faster-than-light travel, patiently explaining the concepts that had baffled the Althian mathematicians. They explained the importance of observation, experimentation, and collaboration. They explained how they were prepared to share the equation, and that the Althians were welcome to explore its use. At first, the Althians were skeptical. They questioned the motives behind their generosity, the true implications of their technological advancements. They struggled to reconcile the humans' openness with their own traditions. But over time, as they witnessed the humans' willingness to share knowledge, their compassion, and their dedication to understanding, their doubts began to fade. One evening, after several days of discussions, Xyler, addressing the crew and the delegation in the ship's galley, said, "We have been studying your mathematics, the equation that allows for faster-than-light travel. The implications are profound. We have dedicated a lifetime, countless cycles of study to the matter." He paused, his gaze sweeping across the room. "I can now say we understand your approach. We recognize the importance of observation and experimentation. We appreciate your willingness to share this information with us. You have shown us that cooperation is more effective than competition. We have, frankly, underestimated you." A murmur of approval rippled through the assembled crowd. The room fell silent as Thorn stepped forward. He held up a small device. It was a demonstration of one of the concepts behind their FTL drive. "We understand that your society is founded on the concept of logic and reason," he said, his voice soft but clear. "And that is a foundation that we, too, share." He activated the device. The air crackled with energy as a holographic representation of the equation filled the room. The Althians, initially fearful, watched in amazement. They had spent decades of their lives attempting to achieve this result, and it had been solved in front of them with what seemed to be relative ease. "We have studied your mathematics," Thorn continued, his voice echoing in the room. "And we have learned from your methods. We believe that we can learn from one another. We believe in the power of cooperation." The room erupted with applause, both human and Althian. This was the moment they had been working towards, the moment when understanding and respect had replaced suspicion and fear. They had forged a bond, an alliance, and the future of their civilizations began to change. Yet the cosmos held deeper secrets than anyone could imagine. As the days of diplomatic success were celebrated, a new danger emerged. During the final joint analysis of the Odyssey's long-range sensor data, they discovered an anomaly, a signal. The message, old and faint, pulsed from a distant galaxy, a signal originating from a place no one had ever explored. The Althian sensor operators, their faces grim, examined the readings. The origin point was located on the far edge of the known universe, beyond anything they had ever mapped. "It is structured," the chief sensor officer, a young Althian named Cathar, said, his voice hushed. "It appears to be an automated message repeating itself, but it is not a call for help. It is a warning." The warning came with another revelation. The signal emanated from an ancient, abandoned megastructure, a relic of a civilization that had vanished long before the dawn of the Althian Empire or even the origins of the human race. The message's words were in a language nobody understood, but the data suggested that it was a warning about a cosmic threat, a force that could end all life. And by the looks of the ancient structure's design, the object was meant to withstand any kind of destruction. The room fell silent. Rostova, Thorn, and Xyler stood side by side, their faces a mix of concern and resolve. "What is the meaning of this?" Xyler asked, his voice low and solemn. "What threat are we facing?" "I don't know," Rostova replied, her gaze fixed on the holographic display. "But we will find out. We will face it together." The humans, with their newfound allies, turned to a new challenge. The crew of the Odyssey and the Althian delegation began to prepare for a new, unknown journey. They had solved the FTL equation, but they still had a challenge ahead of them. "We must investigate the origin of the signal," Rostova said, her voice filled with a quiet determination. We must find out what that message means. We must protect this galaxy. Thorne nodded, his mind already racing with calculations. The distance is immense. It will take a long time to reach that galaxy, even with our new propulsion system. Xyler turned to Rostova, his multifaceted eyes filled with a mixture of fear and respect. We will assist you. The fate of the galaxy may depend on it. The two species worked together, sharing their knowledge, their experience, their technology. Together, they modified the Odyssey, equipping it with the most advanced sensors, weapons, and defensive systems. They prepared for the unknown, for the possibility of a confrontation with a force unlike anything they had ever encountered. The combined intelligence of the human and Althian civilizations began to work as one. The Odyssey began its journey, accompanied by a small fleet of Althian cruisers. As the vessel accelerated towards its destination, the crew worked together, testing the limits of their shared technology, perfecting their strategies, refining their understanding of their enemy. As they left their home galaxy and started on their long journey, Rostova and Xyler stood side by side on the observation deck, watching the stars blaze. I still don't understand why you have done all of this, Xyler said, his voice echoing in the vast space. Why you chose to help us. We were so different. We were at odds with each other. Rostova turned, her eyes fixed on Xyler. We knew that you two were capable of learning. We understood that, like us, you believe in progress, and we believe that the only way to meet any challenge is together. The same equation that allows for faster-than-light travel can also bring us together. Our alliance is our hope and our power. She paused, looking out at the stars. The universe is vast and the challenges are endless, but we are stronger together. We are a species now, a civilization. And we will face whatever comes. The Odyssey continued on its course. As they moved into a new era, the echoes of the unknown reverberated throughout the universe. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. The alliance between humanity and the Althian Empire had brought them into a new era of cooperation and understanding. And it was just the beginning. As the vessel continued towards its unknown destination, a final thought resonated through the Odyssey's core systems. The FTL equation was no longer just a calculation. It had become a symbol of unity, a testament to the power of collaboration, and an embodiment of the human spirit. The fate of the galaxy had been forever changed. And somewhere in the vast expanse of the cosmos, the signal from the past grew stronger, the warning more urgent, promising a destiny they had yet to fully comprehend.